Hello, movie fans. How are you all doing today on this lovely night? Today, I wanted to talk about exactly what can DC do to fix the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, because whether you're a hardcore DC fanboy or you just hate Marvel because it's not DC, I think you can all admit that DC movies currently have been let down and they have been really disappointing. And I mean, all the three movies, Man of Steel, BVS, and Suicide Squad, have been extremely divisive, and not all audiences and critics have liked these movies. So clearly, there are issues. I wanted to give my opinion on what I think they could do to fix the whole universe. And all the opinions I'm going to share with you guys, it's going to be out of love and respect for DC because I love DC. In fact, last year, Batman v Superman was my most anticipated movie. This year, Justice League is my most anticipated movie. That's two DC movies in a row. I cannot wait for DC movies. I'm a big fan. So, with all that out of the way, let's get started with this spoiler heavy video. I'm gonna spoil all the three movies: Man of Steel, BVS, and Suicide Squad. So if you haven't seen these movies yet, you have been warned. So the number one thing which DC can do to fix the DCEU is to stop rushing. Just take your time to make the movie. Don't rush. There's no hurry. And I have a few examples to back up my argument. Number one, in 2011 we had Green Lantern. Now this movie was released because DC saw that the Marvel movies were doing really well at the box office. Like in 2008, Iron Man blew up the box office. Like it just came out of nowhere and it destroyed box office records. And it did well critically and financially. After that, Iron Man 2, Captain America First Avenger, and Thor, these movies all did well. And in 2012, The Avengers was planned. Now, DC felt like they were behind the race. They wanted to make a cinematic universe, which Marvel had created, and thus they made this Green Lantern movie. And that was a huge mistake because this movie, not only was it trashed upon by critics and audiences, people didn't like this movie. This movie also bombed financially. It lost the studio a lot of money, thus, DC just scrapped the whole plans to create a cinematic universe. Now, after 2012, we had the Avengers, and the Avengers just, holy shit, it blew up the box office. $1.5 billion dollars. At the time, it was the third highest grossing movie of all time, the biggest domestic opening weekend of all time. The Avengers was just, it blew the box office. Thus, DC wanted to be like, oh my god, like Marvel just made the Avengers, and the Avengers aren't nearly as popular as the Justice League, and that is a fact, to be honest. So DC was like, oh my god, let's quickly make a Superman Batman movie and let's just create the Justice League. And in 2013 we had Man of Steel, and in my opinion, Man of Steel is a masterpiece. I love Man of Steel, but many people don't share my opinion. But since Man of Steel wasn't liked by critics and audiences alike, it was a pretty divisive movie, and it didn't make the studio as much money as they hoped for. This prompted them to quickly have Batman in a Superman movie and thus quickly form the Justice League. And then in 2016, we had Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. And well, we know how that turned out because that was an extremely divisive movie, if not the most divisive movie of all time. Then we had Suicide Squad, another extremely divisive movie. Now, this is the best example of rushing. So, David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, had only 6 weeks to write a script for Suicide Squad. Now, Suicide Squad is part of the DCEU, and the DC movies are like these giant blockbusters, and Suicide Squad needed $150 million, if not more than that, to make the movie. 6 weeks is absolutely ridiculous. It is nothing. Usually, people take months, if not years, to write a script for that big of a movie, but David Ayer just had 6 weeks because the studio wanted to get this movie out as soon as possible because they wanted to compete with Marvel and because Batman v Superman didn't do the money which they hoped it would do. I mean, PVS should have easily made $1 billion. It didn't do that. It still made money. It just wasn't nearly as profitable as they hoped for. They wanted this movie out as soon as possible, and this was the big mistake because Suicide Squad was another divisive movie. Another example of the studio rushing these movies is the Flash movie. And the Flash movie was supposed to come out next year's 2018. It was supposed to have like started production in 2017, early 2017. But the thing is, the studio has already lost two directors, and it has gone through another rewrite. That's like the third or fourth time. Like they're gonna write the movie again, so many times. I mean, it's okay if they take time to write the movie. The problem is that DC is trying to hire a director as soon as possible because they want to get the Flash movie out by 2018. They want to make 2 to 3 DC movies next year because they want to compete with Marvel. They want to catch up to Marvel. And this is a problem because the Flash on the TV show is loved by many people. People love that show. I love that show. If the movie is not that good, that's just gonna hurt the DCEU because on the television it's doing great, but in the movies they just can't seem to get it right. And honestly, DC, don't worry about having the Flash movie out by 2018. If you can't do it, push it to 2019. The most important thing right now is you have to get the fans and the audiences back to the DC movies because you haven't been able to do that for the last 3 DC movies. And the last example of the studio rushing a DC movie is the Batman movie. Now, just a few days ago, if not like a day or two ago, it was announced that Ben Affleck is not going to be directing the Batman movie anymore. Now, to those of you who didn't know, Ben Affleck was writing, directing, and starring as Batman in the Batman movie, in the Batman standalone movie. And I thought this was a genius move because Affleck has directed Gone Baby Gone, The Town, both were great movies. The Argo, which won Best Picture at the Oscars. So in his third movie, he made a movie that won Best Picture at the Oscars. This guy is one of the best directors working today, and he's one of the only actors who just can't star. He can direct, he can write the movie. He just has so much power. He has so much influence. But what really pissed me off, what angered me, was that he's no longer directing the Batman movie. Because even those of you who didn't like BVS or maybe hated Batman vs Superman, Ben Affleck was the best part of the movie. He was great as Batman, and I'm gonna go on record and say Ben Affleck's Batman is the best Batman ever in any movie. He was just awesome, and I was so looking forward to the Batman movie. But I'm really skeptical now because apparently what happened was Warner Brothers they like these are just reports that the studio was rushing. They were pushing Ben Affleck to quickly make the movie, to write the movie, so that it could be out by 2018. Because everyone knows the Batman, no matter what, if it's good or bad, it's gonna do over $1 billion business because this is one of the most popular characters of all time. But here lies the problem though, because for the past few weeks, Ben Affleck kept saying, until I think the movie's gonna be good, until I finish the script, I'm not gonna make the movie. I want this movie to be great. He's one of the only DC people who's been saying that, unlike other people who have been saying, we're gonna lighten up the tone, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be great. But Ben Affleck has been saying, I wanna make a good movie, I'm gonna take time with the script. But DC is just pushing him to quickly make the movie. That is the issue. In fact, after he quit the Batman movie as a director, Affleck even said, now I'm going to paraphrase here, but he said something along these lines. It's clearly evident that I cannot do the job as the director and the star in the movie the way they require. The moment he said they require, I knew it was obvious. Warner Brothers was interfering in the Batman movie. They wanted to make the movie as soon as possible, and this okay. I need to calm down because this news actually just angered me. I was pissed off the whole night because this is Ben Affleck. He made a Best Picture movie. Why are they pushing him to get this movie out by next year? People are gonna watch these DC movies no matter what. They're gonna do great financially. So why rush these movies? Because I kid you not, if Wonder Woman is a bad movie, if it's as divisive as these other DC movies, that's gonna hurt the Justice League movie. It's gonna hurt these other upcoming DC movies. In fact, if the Batman, if the Batman is divisive, if it's not a good movie, this whole DC universe, it's gonna be scrapped. It's gonna be dead. So instead of scrapping all these plans with the DCEU, Take your time. Maybe just have one movie out next year. Maybe just have Aquaman. Then in 2019, have Justice League and have maybe another movie. There's no point in rushing. Look at Marvel. Marvel had Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Captain America, and Thor. They made these 5 movies in 4 years, and then they had the Avengers. They didn't just rush into the Avengers. In fact, 2017 is the first time Marvel's gonna have 3 movies. Until this point, Marvel has either had 1 movie or 2 movies a year. It has not had 3 movies. But at this point, they have the ability to make 3 movies a year because people love their movies and they make a lot of money. But DC, on the other hand, have lost faith and they have lost the trust of many audiences and fans and critics who love these movies. And right now, what they need to do is to bring those fans back. Make a good Wonder Woman movie, make a good Justice League movie, and then make a good Aquaman movie. Because if these movies are now good, then people are gonna come back to the DCEU, and that's just gonna make you a lot more money. The next issue which DC has to fix in the DCEU is the overstuffing problem. And I mean overstuffing characters and overstuffing the storylines, the plot lines in the movie. So let's talk about Marvel first. Marvel had Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, and Captain America the First Avenger. Then they had the Avengers, the 6th movie. DC, on the other hand, we have Man of Steel, it's about one hero. Then we have Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where we're introduced to Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Flash, Aquaman. Already in the 2nd movie. In the 3rd movie, we have Suicide Squad. We're introduced to Deadshot, Harley Quinn, a brand new Joker, Killer Croc, Amanda Waller, Katana, Rick Flag, Enchantress, El Diablo. There's so many characters. Why overstuff these movies when clearly you cannot do it right now? You cannot do it well right now. It again goes back to the whole concept that DC is rushing the DCEU. They quickly want to get the Justice League movie out as soon as possible to compete with Marvel's Avengers, that they're not focusing on these other movies, these long list of standalone movies. I still argue what DC should have done is make the Batman movie the 2nd movie, then maybe Wonder Woman movie, then Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where we're introduced to Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman, where it makes sense why Batman and Superman want to fight each other and how Wonder Woman can maybe play a factor in calming them down and not using the whole Martha stupid storyline in Batman v Superman. Then after maybe a BVS movie, we could have gotten a Flash movie, an Aquaman or a Cyborg movie. Then the Justice League. They're gonna spend half the movie assembling the team, and all that time could have just been spent on other cooler things, like giving us more action, bringing Superman back to life, or giving us more Steppenwolf, Darkseid, all that cool stuff. So I sincerely hope that they don't spend a lot of time in Justice League to like set up other future standalone movies, like giving us Deathstroke, which I really don't want to see Deathstroke in a Justice League movie. Just keep me for the Batman movie. Even the Joker, I don't want to see the Joker in a Justice League movie. Just keep all those characters in their standalone movies. Just focus on Steppenwolf, focus on assembling the team, and that's it. Just don't try to set up other upcoming or future movies because that's really gonna bog your movie down. Now let's talk about overstuffing storylines or plot lines in the DC movies. So in Batman v Superman, we had so many storylines to deal with that the movie just it didn't flow like in a linear way. It was all over the place. Like in BVS, that introduced Batman, Wonder Woman, set up the Justice League, death of Superman, the whole Batman nightmare sequence, giving us a Doomsday fight, giving us a Batman v Superman fight, giving us a Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman fight against Doomsday. Like, you had so much stuff to do in BVS that really hurt the movie. And in fact, in BVS's theatrical cut, the whole Africa sequence still doesn't make sense. It wasn't needed. They needed additional 5-10 minutes in the ultimate cut to make more sense of it. They could have just taken that out instead of giving us more motivations and character for Superman so that we can understand where Superman is coming from, why he wants to fight Batman. I mean, Batman's motivations make clear sense why he hates Superman. Superman's didn't make sense. Even though Suicide Squad didn't have a lot of plot lines to deal with, the thing is, those plot lines which were in the movie, they were handled poorly. Like we had the whole fact that this movie was taking place after Batman v Superman, how Superman was killed. Then we had the fact that Amanda Waller had assembled a team of metahumans, even though only two people are metahumans in a team of like 8 9 people in the Suicide Squad movie. Then we had the Joker and Harley Quinn scenes with like these plot lines, they didn't flow properly. That's why it felt overstuffed to me. Like this movie could have done without the fact that Joker had to be in it. Instead, they could have just focused on Enchantress, which even though I didn't want that, I wanted Joker to be the main villain. But since they chose Enchantress as the main villain, instead give her more motivation why she's a villain. Now both rushing and overstuffing, these are just the things that that the studio hasn't done well. But the main concern with the DCEU movies are that the story or the characters aren't good, and that is my next point, which I think they should fix, is that they need to focus on a good story rather than really cool, awesome moments. Because in Batman v Superman, we had some great moments, but those moments added to nothing because the whole movie was a letdown. In Suicide Squad, they had some really cool moments, but the movie just didn't feel like natural. It didn't feel organic. It was just a really, really bad movie. So I sincerely hope that they focus on the story because, in my opinion, a story is the most important thing in a movie. If a story is good and if like the other things are bad, like characters or action, I'm more forgiving because if the story's interesting, I'm in. But if the story is bad, I'm almost like done with the movie. Like I have no more interest in a movie. And in the DC movies currently in BVS and Suicide Squad, the story could have been strengthened. It could have been much better, but they weren't that good. And they had many plot holes, which I really hope they fix in the upcoming DC movies because I know DC can do it. This is the same studio that gave us The Dark Knight, which had a fantastic story. It is one of the best movies of all time. The studio gave us Man of Steel, which I love personally. I think it's a masterpiece. It has a great story. It felt like a really standalone movie. I really hope that they write a better story in the upcoming DC movies. Another problem which they can fix in the DCEU is the fact that they should have one person that's in charge of everything. Like in Marvel, we have Kevin Feige. He's the president of Marvel Studios. He's also the producer of all the Marvel movies. So he's in charge of everything. It's his vision. While DC, on the other hand, does not have a person in charge. I mean, even though they put Jeff Johns as like the head of the DC film properties, they still have many other people who are in charge of Jeff Johns, and they are the ones that are dictating the terms, and it's not Jeff Johns. And that is wrong because Kevin Feige, he has power, he has freedom, but he still reports to the CEO of Disney. But he has some power and he can do stuff mostly on his own. While Jeff Johns, he's bombarded with other people's opinions and like, their feedback that it's not going to help the movies in the future. So I really hope that they either focus on Jeff Johns as a person in charge or they give Ben Affleck or someone who has experience like Kevin Feige does in making a cinematic universe and making sure that his vision, his or her vision, is fulfilled. Now, those are all the problems which I think DC could fix to fix the DCEU, but I wanted to talk about another thing, and that is the tone. Now, as I mentioned before, all I hear from DC actors or filmmakers are, except Ben Affleck, all I hear is that they want to change the tone. It's going to be a lot more lighter, it's going to be fun, and I think that is a problem because the real problem in the DC movies is not the tone. In BVS, Man of Steel, or Suicide Squad, the tone was never the problem. The problem were the stories and the characters and other stuff. And I hope that the tone change, it feels natural with the movies, that it makes sense. And I hope it's just not like they want to change the tone because they want to make more money. I hope that change it because it works with the story. Now, I want to end this video on an optimistic note. I know that DC can do it. They clearly have the power, they have the resources, they have the men, they have a rich history of comics, like 70 plus years. They have great characters. Their characters are more iconic than Marvel's. Marvel's Wolverine and Spider-Man are the most iconic Marvel characters, but even these two characters aren't nearly as popular or iconic than Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. DC has the advantage. Marvel didn't have the advantage. DC has it. I hope they do it because they have great actors involved in the whole DCEU. They keep adding these Oscar winners or Oscar nominated actors. These are all great actors. Affleck, J.K. Simmons, Jared Leto. All these actors are great. And I know that DC can do it. Just, again, take your time, okay? There's no point in rushing. Even one movie next year is perfectly fine. In 2 years, in 3 years, when you're ready to go for 2 to 3 movies a year, then go for it because people are gonna watch it. It's gonna make billions of dollars. So please, DC, have faith in your movies and take your time. Well, guys, that's my video on what DC can do to fix the DCEU. I know they'll do it because I have great confidence in them. Good luck, DC. Hope you like this video. Please like, please subscribe, and stay spicy.